Smith & Wesson Easy Battle. Easy 9mm Performance Center versus Easy 380 ACP. The crew and I are down here at Daryl's awesome indoor shooting range, and we're finally getting a chance to do the Smith & Wesson Easy 380 against the Smith & Wesson Easy 9mm. We're going to gauge how, we'll say, mobility friendly and easy eye friendly is the 9mm version of this platform compared to the 380 platform. I suspect things like recoil will slant in the 380's favor, and because we have the Performance Center edition of the 9mm, that maybe things like the sights will slant maybe in that direction. But let's put these firearms through their paces today and see how they shake out. I'll start with a magazine through the Easy 380 at our silhouette target, and I'll probably just shoot center mass on that target for both these magazines. I'm going to start with the slide down so we can gauge the easy rack nature of the firearms as well. And of course on the 380, as the name implies, very easy to articulate the slide. Let's see how it puts holes in paper. Here we go. I would say very mild on the recoil as expected. I think 6 of my 8 shots are in the, what we'll call the critical ring of the 9 ring, with all 8 in the 9 ring. Let's see how the 9mm fares now. I'm just gonna aim at that same spot. Okay, 9mm version, also very easy to articulate the slide. Noticeably more recoil than the 9mm version. And if you watched our first range report, I commented how this aluminum grip safety hits an uncomfortable spot on my palm. That is also definitely true today. Much more uncomfortable shooting the 9mm version with where that grip safety hit my palm. Let me step out and have the crew step in and do a couple magazines, and we'll see what they think.
I'm going to shoot, I think at the cranium.
You're going to shoot at the cranium zone? At the cranium?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here I go.
Or if you do it the number 7, like just below the neckline.
Okay, I'll do that.
I would say all your shots are between the 7 and the 8, just maybe an inch to the left of the number 7 and the number 8 in that area.
Okay.
So if you were shooting at the center mass, like I was, they would probably all been in that critical zone around the number 9.
All right. Okay, 9mm.
other than your last shot that was a little low, I think your group was actually better with the 9mm than the 380. Picture of our. Okay, here is my group. Not terrible. Here is the crew's group. Not terrible. Both right where we were aiming at. Pretty good groups. Which do you think was better as far as from, say, as a senior shooter's gun? Would you lean more towards the 9 or the 380?
No doubt about it. The 380. The guns feel very similar. The 9mm is slightly bigger. They both rack easy, but the difference in recoil is substantial. I like both. I like both those guns. I don't think they're the most concealable guns, but certainly if you were going to have a gun for home defense and you're a senior citizen, you could do a lot worse than the 380. Ammo's a little bit pricey.
Yeah.
But the 380 is easy on old hands.
Where I think the easy 380 has the big advantage is in the low recoil. It's much easier to shoot, much less punishing on the hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the grip safety, the aluminum nature of the grip safety, or how narrow it is, but it hammers into the palm of my hand and is very uncomfortable to shoot on the 9mm version.
Yeah, I didn't notice that so much, but the recoil is substantially different. So,
where I think on the 9mm recoil, and it's not bad recoil, it's certainly more mild than like a P365 or a Hellcat, one of the true micro compacts. But I don't think it's on par with, say, a full-size 9mm either. It's a little more demanding than I would have expected.
Yeah, you're right on that.
Do you think, as far as sights, if you were going to buy the 380 version, do you think you would look at the Performance Center one with the updated sights that the 9mm has, or do you think it doesn't make a difference?
Well, before I shot the 9mm, I would have said, oh yeah, the sights make a difference. But actually, the sights on the 380, with them being white, are very easy for me to see, and they're big.
Yeah.
So I would probably stick with the sights on the 380.
Wow, okay. That's kind of surprising. I would have thought you would have said the high-vis fiber optic ones.
Yeah, which were okay too, but the sights on the 380 are bigger and they're white and they're easy to see. So,
do you think the flat face trigger on the Performance Center added anything, or do you think that the stock one was fine there as well?
You know, I didn't even notice the difference. So I would have to say, since I didn't notice it, it probably didn't make a difference.
I think the only thing I noticed there is, and the reset is very subtle on the 380 version, but I can still feel the trigger reset. Yeah. Whereas on the 9mm one, I can't feel the trigger reset or the break point, which
I'll have to shoot the 9mm one more time and see if I notice that difference.
Yeah.
Because you're right, I can feel it clearly on the 380, but I mean, however the 9mm was set up, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
So should we fire one more magazine through the 9mm?
Let's do one more at the cranium zone, and we'll see if we can tell a difference as far as feeling that reset or not.
Great.
Okay, the crew and I, we're going to shoot one additional magazine through each firearm, paying closer attention to the trigger difference, if there is any, between these two firearms here today. I'm going to shoot over the left-hand shoulder up the silhouette, and then the crew will take their shots at the cranium zone on the target. Starting again here with the EZ 380. Here we go. And I'll do the 9mm at the same spot. Aside. I do have some different thoughts.
Maybe your group was a little tighter with the 9mm.
You got one just off the ear, but I think it's on the paper, so technically all 8 are in the cranium.
Okay. Good as your group.
I think my second magazines of the day were a little better than my first magazines of the day. What I noticed was on the easy 9mm Performance Center that while now I can feel where the break point is on the trigger, that there's really not much take up and it's very subtle on,
Yeah.
It's not a very, well, I would say, clearly defined break point, where if you're really not looking for it, you're just gonna blow right past it. And I can't feel the reset point at all, whereas on the 380 version, while it's not as obvious as some other firearms, it's much more obvious, at least compared to the 9mm one.
Yeah, I think in retrospect, I agree with what you said, and I think that the 9mm has the potential, if I shot both guns enough, the 9mm would probably be a little bit more accurate for me because the trigger is a little bit, I think it's pretty crisp and there's not much take up in it.
Yeah. I think it's good. I don't know if that's just the difference between two different firearms or if the quote, Performance Center action tuning actually comes into play there. It's hard for me to say.
Well, yeah, and to be perfectly honest with you, there isn't a huge difference from my perspective in the tuning between the 380 and the 9mm.
No.
Would I pay an extra $100 for it? Probably not. You know, I'd probably say that the standard tuning on the 380 is probably good enough for a self-defense gun that's accurate. It's not a target pistol. And, you know, I'd say but they're both good guns.
Yeah.
Both worked flawlessly.
Well, I would say on the Easy 380, the trigger, as far as factory triggers go on 380s, that it's one of the better factory triggers. Like if I was going to compare it against, say, the Ruger Security 380 with its secure action trigger, I very much prefer the Smith & Wesson trigger compared to Ruger's trigger on that.
Yeah. The thing that that I'm surprised about is that when I first saw the Performance Center model, I said, oh, it's worth it for the sights. And then after shooting them both side by side, I kind of prefer the plain white, or the white sights on the 380, because they're larger and they're very easy to see.
Yeah, we were looking at that before shooting the magazines, and like you say, I would have gravitated initially towards the updated sights on the 9mm one, but looking at them at least in the indoor range lighting conditions, the plain Jane Spartan 3 white dot sights on the 381 are probably easier to see and better for these conditions compared to the what they call those high-vis light pipe tritium night sights. So
yeah, they work very well. I could see them really nicely.
So some of the areas where, like the sites where I thought the Performance Center 9mm were going to have the edge, really not so much.
Yeah.
So
totally agree.
Interesting.
Yep. But I would have to give the 380 for senior citizens probably 5 stars.
Yeah. It's hard to find fault. Unless you're capacity enamored, it's hard to find a thing to fault on that firearm.
Yeah. And in my opinion, if you're an oldie but goodie with arthritic hands and cataracts, if you need more than 8 rounds, you're in too much trouble anyway.
Yeah. So. Let's hope no one ever has to put that to the test, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this seems like a good place to end our video for today. If you like and enjoyed our content, please let us know in the comments section. And if you have time, please click that subscribe button. And Finn and I really appreciate you getting this far.
Starving, huh? You guys need teeth? Yeah, you gotta sit down. Yeah, you gotta sit down. Okay. Tasty beans, huh? Tasty beans. I give you.